Welcome to A Drink of Wisdom with Nathan Drinkard. I'm Jay Wise. Thanks for spending some of your time with us. As you well know, we're on Anchor, we're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and a plethora of other podcasting platforms. We're also on the A Drink of Wisdom YouTube channel. Check us out on all those locations. And a happy belated 4th of July. As someone said recently, that America is the greatest country. It's so great, in fact, that even the people that don't like it, they won't leave. And on that note, we welcome you into another fantastic show. Drink, it's a pleasure to be here with you.
Well, a pleasure as well being here with you. And to what you said, hey, I like the country, so I ain't leaving no time soon. But with that said, you know what time it is. It's another Wednesday, so we got to give the people what they want and what they came here for. Another day, another dollar. So as always, we see what they don't, and we're gonna say what they want. And last but not least, let's talk some sports, baby. Let's roll, baby.
All right, this is episode 62. We're going to talk NFL quarterback competitions, Sha'Carri Richardson, and ESPN's internal turmoil surrounding Rachel Nichols and Maria Taylor. We're going to begin with the NBA Finals in Game 1 that kicked off that series last night with the Phoenix Suns taking a 1-0 series lead with a 118-105 victory. Chris Paul led the way with 32 points in his first ever NBA Finals game. He also got 27 from Devin Booker. DeAndre Ayton, big double-double, 22 points, 19 rebounds. The Suns led by 13 at the was it 13? No, it wasn't. It wasn't that many, but they led by 13 at the end of the game. They led by as many as 20 in the third quarter. The Bucks chipped it down to as little as 7 in the fourth, but overall wasn't enough. Giannis did make his return to the court coming off that hyperextended knee. He looked fairly good, 20 points on 6 of 11. He also had 17 rebounds, 29 points from Chris Middleton in the losing effort. Drink. What was your big takeaways from Game 1?
Well, here's the deal. We know what the Bucks gonna do. Let's not sit here and like it's a surprise. The Bucks in Game 1, they done lost every Game 1 they done played thus far. Kind of remind me of a team last year. Go by the name Los Angeles Lakers. And that's neither here nor there. They lost another Game 1. Whoop-de-doo. We're very surprised. But I would say this for this Game 1 loss. Giannis ended up playing, so I think this is gonna be a determining factor as the series go on. This series will go as the big three of each team goes. That's how I see it. Last night, if you actually look at the numbers from a team standpoint, well, the Bucks out rebounded the Suns. Okay, they had more assists than the Suns. Okay, they even shot They even shot the three better than the Suns. Suns had a slightly better field goal percentage. But the one area where they did win, I thought, was the turnover battle. So you say to yourself, as a team, the Bucks seem to outplay the Suns. But when you start breaking down the big three for the Suns, that's CP3, Devin Booker, and DeAndre Ayton, and for the Bucks, that's Giannis, Middleton, and Holiday. It's clear to see that. Listen, at the end of the day, when the Bucks big three give you 59, right? But then the Suns get 59 from just CP3 and Booker, and they ain't even get to Aiden yet, it's probably gonna be an L. It's probably gonna be a Suns dub and an L for the Bucks. With that said, that's like the biggest takeaway I take away from this whole series. When I looked at the game last night, I wanted to see, just like we talked about last week, if Giannis wasn't playing, what would Middleton and Holiday do? Giannis is playing. Now, remember I did say this last week that for some reason it seems like the Bucks play a different style of game without Giannis, and that part of the game that we don't like about the Bucks came back last night with Giannis at the top of the key with the dribble. The only difference is I think Giannis kind of had an element of surprise on his side because he did look pretty outstanding for a guy that was supposed to be out for the rest of the season, rest of the playoffs. I mean, he got diagnosed with his injury a week ago, and he had more spring in them knees than I gave him credit for. So I will give him credit for that. And for what it's worth, I think that Giannis, as the game went along, he played better. So that showed me that he was kind of getting back in the rhythm. I think game 2, he's going to be something to deal with. But the problem is, like I just said about the big three, is Giannis, he's probably most likely gonna have an outstanding game in Game 2, but we don't know what we're gonna get out of Holiday and Middleton, and I just think, listen, the Suns' big three is more consistent to this point. They really are. I'm not gonna say like Booker won't give you a clunker, CP3 won't give you a clunker, Aiden, won't show up, but thus far in these playoffs, those three have been a way more consistent big three than what the Bucks got right now. And I think in Game 2, they're gonna rely a lot more heavier on Giannis than they did in Game 1. And I just, as a Bucks fan, you gotta ask yourself, hey, Jrue Holiday, we gave up a lot for you, man. Where you at? Where you at, man? Like, where you at? And for Middleton, I mean, I can't really beat him up. He had 29, but I don't know what's going on with the Bucks where one guy goes off, the other guy doesn't go off. They got to fix that. But at the end of the day, to keep it short and sweet, it's all about the big three. So, you know what I'm saying? If you want to make it to the top and pop, y'all, you might want to get something done there, Bucks. But it's just about the big three. I think Giannis is going to come back. I didn't think he had a bad game, to be honest with you. I thought his game was pretty good for coming off his injury. But as you can see, this team is going to need more from Giannis. They're going to need more. Like, I don't want to hear no more of that, what they was in the regular season. I'm done with the regular season stats. What are you doing in the playoffs? And that big three got to step it up. So, for me, good win for the Suns, but I do think the Suns did what the Suns was supposed to do. Listen, you playing Game 1 at home. You seem to be the more healthier team. You seem to be the better team. You should have won this game. I think Game 2 will open our eyes a little more of, is the Suns really just that much better than the Bucks, or would the Bucks make the necessary adjustments to even up that series? What are those necessary adjustments? That's what, that is what I'm trying to see out of Game 2. But overall, I think the Suns just took care of business, and that's what we got.
Yeah, a whole lot to get into in this game. Just to build off what you said, because I think there's something there about this whole big three thing. I would probably go immediately to the seemingly third wheel for each team, because I think that's probably where you can say there was maybe another difference last night in this game. DeAndre Ayton had a real impact on the game, 22 points, 19 rebounds. I mean, that's huge, especially for a team that outside of him is kind of limited in the front court. They don't. The Bucks the Bucks have the better depth on the inside, but Ayton held down the fort. He played a really good game. Meanwhile, Jrue Holiday, I mean, like you say, it just wasn't good enough. And we see this from time to time. Holiday, I mean, it comes and goes for him. The Game 1 thing is not something that's unusual. This is now the third straight series that they've lost Game 1. And especially considering Phoenix has home court. Giannis came back last night, and I thought he looked pretty good early on. Looked to have a lot of spring in his step. I would say maybe later on in the game, maybe a little bit of fatigue set in. But I do agree. I think he's going to come out more aggressive in Game 2. But the big thing is they can't lose Jrue Holiday in all of this. Jrue Holiday has to be an integral part of this team, and he's got to assume more ball handling responsibilities to kind of keep him involved. And I think if they do that, that's only going to help him on the defensive end stay engaged, which is where the Bucks have got to make some adjustments, just as they had to make adjustments in the Eastern Conference semis and Eastern Conference finals against Brooklyn and Atlanta, respectively. Because the pick and roll that Phoenix was working last night, I mean, it was just an absolute clinic. It seemed like too far often Milwaukee got caught in bad switches, and it looked like they switched too willingly, where their backcourt guys had opportunities to fight over the screens and stay attached to Phoenix's backcourt, whether it be CP3 or Devin Booker. And far too often you're looking at Brook Lopez guarding Chris Paul or Booker, and you're like, well, this is a bad matchup. And Lopez, I thought, to his credit, held his own. He did what he could, but that's just an advantage for Chris Paul or Devin Booker. And they've seemingly every time, whenever they felt like it, they just dribble off, they wiggle around a little bit, and then it's a mid-range jump shot. Both of those guys are excellent in the mid-range. I think both guys are more deadly in the mid-range than they are from behind the arc. And we know how lethal they can be from out there. I think from Milwaukee moving forward, and I've said this from time to time. I think Brook Lopez, they're going to have to cut his minutes. If you're going to employ, the switching that they employed, you're going to have to downsize. I think you put Giannis at the 5 and let him bang with Ayton. I think Giannis has to make it a point to take him out of the game or limit him and battle him on the boards, because Brook Lopez coming out here. Look at this. Ayton got 17 defensive rebounds last night. Why does Brook Lopez have 1 defensive rebound? I'd really like to know what Brook Lopez is doing out there on the defensive end. Well, what do you mean? You just told me what he was doing. He's out there just getting abused in the pick and roll on the switch. Well, maybe that had something to do with it. But still, 1 defensive rebound. That's just unacceptable. But I'd like to see Bobby Portis out there a bit more. I've said that, repeatedly. We finally got a little bit more of him when Giannis left with the hyperextended knee against Atlanta. But I think you see how it goes in game 2. I don't think you change your start lineup. You see how Brook Lopez is doing. I think you make it a more point of emphasis to try to, Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton, fight over those screens and stay attached so your defense doesn't get compromised immediately. Because not only that do you get a mismatch with Lopez, but when Lopez comes off of Ayton, now you have the setup for the lob. And then, if you take away the lob, now you're in rotation and then you get wide open threes. So that's what you have going on. The other point about Phoenix is what I've seen enough Phoenix basketball now from this season to learn this about it. Phoenix is not going to beat themselves. And what I mean by that is they're going to take care of the basketball. They're not going to make mistakes. They play good defense. And you saw it last night from the free throw line. These guys were 25 for 26. They took advantage of the whistles when they got them. They got quite a few of them. But they, those little things that you have absolute control over, taking care of the ball, maximizing possessions, and hitting your free throws, that is what they did better than Milwaukee. Milwaukee was not good from the free throw line. We know they're hampered because Giannis just can't get it together from there for whatever reason. And Milwaukee had more turnovers. They didn't value the ball as much. So first and foremost, Milwaukee, they gotta be as solid as Phoenix is, and they cannot shoot themselves in the foot, because Phoenix is not going to shoot themselves in the foot and make careless mistakes over and over. So I mean, those are some of the observations I have. But in the big picture, the biggest thing is I think game 2, Giannis will be better, but Drew Holiday has to be more involved. I think him and Middleton should get the bulk of the ball handling responsibilities. Play Giannis more off ball. Let him be the guy to set the screen, because we know how devastating he can be as a roll man. That's when he's going to play above the rim. And I really think, depending on how game 2 starts, if Brook Lopez is having trouble, then I think you got to downsize. And I didn't really like what Budenholzer did in the fourth quarter last night. I don't know what. I mean, I like Bryn Forbes. I really do. But if Bryn Forbes ain't making threes, there ain't a whole lot of reason to be him in the game. He was in the game in the fourth quarter last night when they went small, and it didn't really make a lot of sense to me. I don't think. Bryn Forbes, he can have his minutes, but I don't think he's the right guy to be in there, because I don't think he offers you much on the defensive end. I would stick with, if I'm looking at the bench, I want Connaughton or Portis having the most minutes off the bench, because those are the guys that do the little things, and they're better on the defensive end than Bryn Forbes. But overall, Phoenix, like you say, they did what they were supposed to do, but I fully expect Milwaukee to get back in this series. And I do think, assuming Giannis is going to build off this and that knee holds up, I think Milwaukee will end up coming back from an early series deficit as they did in the last 2 series.